Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rex, and this is Miscellaneous Myths. Thoth, I don't know how to pronounce that. Gambles with the Moon by the channel Wally Sarkisy Productions. Egyptian mythology. Oh, yes, it's going to be Egyptian mythology. It's always awesome. Egyptian mythology is rife with shenanigans, trauma, and bodily fluids. Okay, but today let's talk about a surprisingly SFW myth with a vital role in establishing the calendar year. I think I've reacted to, I guess, few miscellaneous myths about Egyptian mythology with the Ra and all. It's just fucking awesome. Obviously, my interest peaked with Egyptian mythology with the game Assassin's Creed Origins. After that, I read upon it a lot, and obviously this channel being awesome. Miscellaneous myths are always great. That was really funny. So yeah, it's something gonna be with the moon and about a calendar year. All right, so Egyptian calendar. All right, let's watch it. Remember, if you like my Rick, don't forget to subscribe so I know which type of videos to react to more. Check out the Rick Sunday, there's a link in the description. There you'll find a playlist with all my OSP reactions, and yeah, let's watch it.
Deliberately unsatisfying videos where it looks like something's set up to be absolutely flawless, but then something misses by inches and the whole thing falls apart. The lunisolar calendar is like that. It should be a beautiful, perfect system of wheels within wheels, pleasingly regular orbits with completely predictable outcomes. And it kind of is, but the problem is the lunar month, aka the time it takes the moon to fully orbit the Earth, is 30 days, and the solar year, the time it takes the Earth to fully orbit the Sun, is 365 days, which means 12 lunar months is 5 days short of a solar year. That's already annoying enough. If you measure your years by the moon, which is extremely convenient due to its phase visibly changing every day, within 6 years the sun is a whole lunar cycle off position, which has a noticeable impact on seasonal weather. If you measure your years by the sun, which is a little more difficult unless you're really paying attention to the position of the stars, the seasons might stay consistent, but the lunar cycle is 5 days offset and you can't use full moons to demarcate the months anymore. And it gets worse. Technically, those cyclic lengths are only approximations. Our day length isn't some celestial unit inscribed on the heavens that the sun and the moon adhere to, it's just how fast the Earth spins. There's no reason the moon would orbit exactly 30 times slower than the Earth turns. So technically, a solar year is actually 365 days, 5 hours.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It wasn't completely accurate, but yeah. 29.53 days, right? And solar is 365.23. Sometimes people say 366, but yeah. So that's pretty important, 365.23. That is the reason why every 4 years we have a leap day, right? Because yeah, 0.23 by 4 is like nearly, 100. Nearly, that's the whole point, right? Because even that leap day every 4 years, that still doesn't correct it enough, right? So you have to add, take it out, add again. That goes all the way, I think, to 200 years cycle. But yeah, that's our latest calendar, which is kind of the most accurate you can get, right? I mean, you can create a more accurate calendar than that, but then you'll be sacrificing, days and yeah, basically that. So, if you don't want leap days and shit like that, leap seconds, leap days, it's probably, what's going to happen is like you're going to, celebrate New Year's at 12 a.m. this year. Next year, it'll be something like 3 a.m. Next year after that, it's going to be like 6 a.m. Basically, that's how it's going to work, right? So, yeah. 12 a.m., 6 a.m., 12 a.m. I guess that's how it's going to work, right? Until the fourth year, it basically 1 day is missing. That's why we have leap days to begin with.
48 minutes and 46 seconds, and a lunar month is 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes, and 2.9 seconds. There's no way to get those perfectly lined up, and any calendar that's based on whole days as its smallest unit, which is all of them, will inevitably have to account for rounding errors within a few short years. This betrayal of modular arithmetic hurts my soul and single-handedly convinced me that if there is a creator god responsible for the turning of the celestial spheres, they're a real asshole. Now, while almost every culture has its own way of reckoning the calendar, almost all of them have accounted for this discrepancy in one way or another. Ancient Babylon favored lunar months for reckoning time and made up the time slip with an intercalary month added every once in a while, roughly 7 times every 19 years, to make up the missing time so the calendar stayed in rough alignment with the observed seasons. The Hebrew calendar started off very similar to the Babylonian one, but was replaced with a calculated calendar rather than an observational one over the course of the first millennium CE, which got pretty solidly locked in by our boy Maimonides in 1178 CE. The Mayan calendar combined a 365-day solar year with a much more important 260-day cycle of 13 15 20-day units called the Tzolk'in that doesn't have a clear astronomical origin, but does make scholars argue a lot, which is always fun. And then there's the ancient Egyptians, who created a civil calendar sometime around 2000 BCE by rather ergonomically supplementing their 12 lunar months with a 5-day intercalary period to make sure every year lined up with a 365-day solar cycle. These 5 days rounded off the year and were seen as the birthdays of several major gods. And that's the kind of concept that definitely has a myth attached, right?
Yeah.
Like, come on, that's a golden opportunity. So today let's talk
Yeah,
about
what awesome thing about that is they saw like, we have to have 365 days for a year, and it's just like with the moon, it's just only get 360. So we should add 5 days, and let's give that to days to the god and create some kind of mythology. The level of creativity that takes is just ridiculous.
how those oh-so-convenient 5 bonus days got tacked onto the calendar and rounded everything off nicely, except for leap years, but they didn't do those, so shush. So, this story is recounted by Greek historian, philosopher, and priest of Apollo Plutarch in his Moralia, written around
I mean, Egyptians couldn't have known for the leap years, right? I mean, they can't. I'm pretty sure, I don't know much, history behind this, but on leap day is kind of a recent thing, just few centuries past, not millennia past, right? But if the Egyptian knew about that, like, okay, it offsets by a fucking day, right, every 4 years, if they knew that, that would be so awesome. Like, that's really accurate for them to know at least.
around 100 AD, in a section that is specifically about Plutarch's impression of Egyptian culture, their religious practices, and their gods. And while we're going to be discussing the Egyptian gods he was clearly talking about, it is important to note that Plutarch went out of his way to localize his story by assigning corresponding Greek gods to several Egyptian gods in this tale. It was a popular form of syncretism around this time to basically claim that other cultures with other gods were really just worshipping the Greek gods, but, like, wrong. So in this story, Thoth gets cast as Hermes, Set is regularly referred to as Typhon, primordial earth and sky gods Geb and Nut are called Cronus and Rhea, Ra gets downgraded to just the sun, and Nephthys is briefly called Aphrodite, who is then described as consorting with Typhon, which I don't think is supported in the Greek version, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me. So our story begins with the sun god Ra pissed off. This isn't a strictly uncommon occurrence, but this particular fit of pique is the result of sky goddess Nut and earth god Geb boning down. It's not entirely clear why this bugs him so much, but whatever the reason, Ra lays down an official heavenly decree that Nut cannot give birth any day of the year. Yep, all 360 of them are strictly off limits. This is a bummer for a lot of reasons, and Thoth, god of wisdom and assorted smart guy things, decides to help her out. So he gambles with Khonshu the moon god on games of Senate and absolutely smokes him, winning a small fraction of his total moonlight, about 1/70th. Now the moon is totally dark only once a lunar cycle, once every 30 days, and 12 times every 360 days. So if you divide up the 348 days when the moon is actually visible, 1/70th is almost exactly 5 days. So Thoth takes his winnings and uses them to expand the calendar, appending his 5 new days to the 360 that are already there.
Alright. Is there any other myth that takes math into account at this level? Because I'm pretty sure there isn't, especially Egyptian myth. You would think like Greek myth. Greeks were really good at this, right? Greeks were great at, mapping like what's happening in the sky, right? With the stars. They basically name it planets and shit like that. So you would think the Greek mythology, sure, but no, Egyptian mythology, okay.
These days are, of course, outside the parameters of Ra's initial curse, and Nut is free to have as many babies as she wants. She proceeds to do just that, popping out Osiris, Horus, Set, Isis, and Nephthys in quick succession, rounding out the Great Aeneid in one fell swoop, and as a happy consequence, perfectly smoothing out the observed solar year. Except that, they didn't do leap days, and because this intercalary period was so deeply religiously significant that the
Decree of Canopus, 200 BCE, rising of Sirius gets a day later every 4 years. Oh, so correct for the... Okay, so they saw Sirius, the star, and realized that it's day later with the rising. And that's how they knew about the leap days. Okay. I didn't see that coming, but that's awesome in itself, man. We should add a 6. Okay.
The idea of adding a leap day was politically and religiously controversial and was actively shot down when they tried it in the 200s BCE, so the whole calendar year very slowly slipped out of alignment with the actual solar year and the observed seasons. But look, it's fine, okay? Sometimes reading the precise mathematical turnings of the celestial spheres is just a little more art than science. 500...
And especially when fucking religion is politics. Right, you can't just do that, right? Add a day, like, are you high? We can't do that. Everybody will rebel, like this is blasphemy or something. When I was a kid, I was very frustrated that the calendar was confusing. The months were different lengths. And October, November, December, 1 the 8th, yeah.
25.
9th and 10th month, like the names implied, yeah. Turns out the calendars are stupid rabbit hole goes much. Oh, the calendars are stupid. Rabbit hole goes much deeper than those childish. Yeah, it really does. Calendars determined by the helical rising of Sirius are the best. Fight me. What you talking about? The Egyptians are all around because the current calendar is the best by a mile. Of all the fucking calendars of the past from everywhere, none of them even come close to the current calendar and how accurate it is. Even today, with all the basically supercomputers and computing power we have, we cannot come with more accurate calendar than we have today. For the simple reason there can't be an accurate calendar. Like, what does that even mean? Like, you want to have a more accurate calendar? At that point, you're just like, what is your priority? Do you care about time? Time of the day? Do you care about the days, right? Or basically, what do you care about? You want 24 hours and you want every year New Year happening at basically at 12 a.m., right? You want that shit and you want to keep the year the way it is, then it's not going to align, right? Because our time of the day basically depends on the how Earth spins on its axis, while days, months, that basically depends on how Earth basically rotates around the sun. Those two things don't align, right? So you will have issue. You will have a leap day every 4 years, because every time Earth finishes a cycle, right? It's not going to be aligned like how it was last time. Exactly, it's going to be like 6 hours so difference. That's why it accumulates. After 4 years you have to add a day. That's why 29th February. You can remove that, but then again, like, what do you value more? It's like I said, like 12 a.m. you're gonna enjoy New Year. Next year is gonna be like 6 a.m. Another next time it's like 12 a.m. It's just gonna shift like that. So right now it's the accurate calendar for thousands of years, right? The system we have right now, where we add a leap days, right? Remove a leap days at a certain time, right? Every 200 years, then every millennia. It's the system works right now. So yeah, I highly doubt helical rising of Sirius is more accurate than current calendar. There's no way in hell. But yeah. Alright, people, that was Miscellaneous Miss Thoth gambles with the moon. I'm pretty sure this is over, right? Yeah. Well, channel OSP, I always like where mythology combines with some scientific thing here and there, especially the ancient science, right? We talk about how Egyptians saw the calendar and how Egyptians basically saw rising of Sirius and realized that, wait a minute, every 4 years it's kind of, there's a problem there. Right? If you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you next time.